You guys are freaking 3-0. You get 3-0.
Yeah,
really?
3-0.
For how they
Dustin's got the spice. He's been eating the chili. He's one of the 5% who thinks Eternal takes it.
You guys are big AT fans over here. I mean, listen, I'm unbiased. Obviously, as a caster, I'm biased.
Of course.
But I think this game's gonna be close. Vegas looked good. You got Maltho on the Hanzo. I mean, man's been popping. He's the Jimmy of the West. Guy's kind of coming into his own.
I mean, the big thing here is that
I'm a little more on the fence. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm also with
I want to see them walk away with a win.
All right. Well, I mean, the thing is
I
that
want to see them walk away with a win. No team wants to be undefeated.
we have to understand the stakes here in this respect, because realistically, we are going to have it be that London needs Vegas to win 3-0 or 3-1 to be able to survive. And we've got some great tweets right here, by the way, leading into some words, some choice words that did come from Dog. Dustin, you're going to have a few tweets that we get to react to here shortly. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, Dustin was on one yesterday, and there were some people who weren't as happy with you, Dustin. I think there were some people who were not happy.
Nobody's ever happy with me, dude. Nobody's ever happy with me. Let's have a listen. What's going to happen? This player in particular, which is Sparker. Dustin. I mean, obviously, he played amazing. The overall cohesiveness of this team was really because of Sparker to find those opening picks. It kind of was the last slot they needed. Nice little flex at the end of the match from him as well to show off the, let's be honest, non-existent muscles he has. But besides that, he do be flexing on us in game.
Dustin.
Obviously, listen, I could explain. It was like a last-second quick thing. I pulled like a leg day. You know, I just came flashed in the pan. You know, it's what it is.
They're gonna break your legs with comments like these. What are you talking about?
I would not.
This is what happened afterwards.
I mean, look at that broad shoulder.
Yeah, he posted his back. He via Twitter not roasted, but flexed on me. Obviously, quite literally flexed on me. I mean, you can't see in the jersey, to be fair. And then also his teammate, Hottie, came back, also supported him. Say, do not call out my gym brother.
If Hottie's in it,
my wrath. So
if Hottie's in it, Dustin, you're cooked.
Yeah,
you're absolutely cooked.
This is like seeing Hottie do those push-ups on stage.
You're so cooked.
Like you're not gonna fight with him. It's the whole gang.
Hey. No. Pull up my tweet, my Instagram from like 2 years ago when I was working out, bro. There's some
I mean, flex now.
Okay.
Come on,
well,
we gotta go back 2 years.
Gotta go back 2 years. Somebody's gotta hit the. All right, there it is. Well, you know, because you have the strong arm at least a little bit there. I saw some definition. We'll allow both of you to strong arm this next match, taking it off, and giving us quite a show. I can't wait to see how it turns out for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Kenobi, as well. You guys are amazing. I think, Moxie, myself, and you, this game is going to be closer than people think, honestly. I think that both of these teams really have I mean, first, we're like on the line for Vegas, right? They need to win this game just out of like going 0-7, whatever, in this stage. It's not a good look. They really need some momentum moving forward. And for Toronto, obviously, since there's so much on the line, there's a good chance that pressure could be too much.
Yeah, it's also really interesting too that we have the tier 2 takeover in terms of talent. We also have it in terms of players too, because you've got Vegas Eternal, who are the legacy left behind by Odyssey, and on the other hand, you have Toronto Defiant, the legacy, as Dash talked about, left behind by American Tornado. So we do get to see two juggernauts of the American contender scene going toe-to-toe. As up first, it's going to be Lijiang Tower, and I feel like this plays a little bit more into Toronto Defiant's playstyle, given the fact that in the past, in fact, when they were actually winning contenders up against Dark Mode all the way back in 2020, it's off of the back of Speedly's Echo, and it's on this very map where he's able to truly pop off with that pick. We might not see it, however, as it is a niche pick that Defiant can pull out in the back pocket if they feel like they need to.
Yeah, Speedly's had a very interesting path, hasn't he? Kind of coming in to the reign, a little bit hyped up, kind of as that young and upcoming talent, and now it's transitioned to the Toronto Defiant, where, not exactly the start they want going 2-5, but maybe if they get this win over the Vegas, that could, lead forward, give them a good chance in Last Chance qualifiers.
Well, we're actually going to see a Rhine mirror, so it feels like Defiant have actually been influenced by London a little bit more, as both of these teams are going to be rolling out the Symmetra TP, but Defiant actually commit the Symmetra in full, so they're going to be able to set it up on that point first, and Eternal now have to walk into them.
Yeah, let's see if the Eternal play it well, where they just kind of let Dove charge on the outside to find those one-shots, but also dealt with an Icicle from Speedily. Nice shot from him to force Dove back maybe not getting that pressure that he really wants. Looking for that Baptiste in the back line. Also, really it's about as many charged shots as you can get here onto that Sojourn. He hasn't even shot off one just yet with that railgun. Now has it built up, but immediately they know it. So they charge into that Sojourn to make sure he can't get that value. Both Reinhardts actually back and forth charge into each other, but both of them just take the neutral fight while this Sojourn is setting up, and as is that Symmetra, so Hydran just charged up full, and no railgun shot yet either for Dove. Cannot find that kill, eventually resulting in Collusion speedily getting Rack Attack and Vulcan down. And that's the tough part with this Sojourn. If you don't get those open picks, you're just gonna get ran on by Hydran.
I mean, it's not just the Sojourn, it's also Vulcan. He's immediately off of that Reinhardt because of the amount of pressure that Hydran is outputting. From a Sojourn, unfortunately, saw a change where you lose that massive amount of railgun charge off of shields. Symmetra still gets that full charge of the beam off of these Rein shields, so we're going to see Vegas Eternal actually opt into the Ramatra to try and poke some of these players off Defiant away from that Reinhardt shield and funnel them towards Dove on the off angle with that railgun alt fire.
On this fight, the Vegas Eternal walk into the point. The Maywall not exactly clean there from Speedily. They do slip on Viant, but the Symmetra ultimate does pop out. Dove, nice shots again, immediately on Ultraviolet. OG down, removed as well. Collusion on the backside, though, with the Fire Strike, and Hydran is still here. We've seen them clutch time and time again. Could they do it again on the point? Speedily drops the May ultimate as well as the beat drop from Rack Attack with 3 members on this team to try and make things in their favor, in which it does so because both supports were removed early on for Toronto Defiant. Eventually, Ultraviolet comes in just to stagger, throws the Immortality Field. He actually gets a kill under Rack Attack while falling there, but they got up that percentage to about 60%.
Defiant still actually deciding to run with this Symmetra at the moment, wanting to be able to TP Collusion into these fights as quickly as possible. OG hitting onto that sound barrier in this next engagement too is going to be able to have it to try and allow Defiant to live through the Blizzard and the Annihilation that Eternal are going to be sitting on, as they need stall. They need to be able to win this fight to actually prove percentage to challenge Defiant, but Dove!
How did Hydran get that pick from across the map? Symmetra, you rarely see that. Towards the point, they drop the beat. No beat on the other side, but they do have that Annihilation as well as the Immortality Field to sustain. Is it enough for the Vegas to hold on to? It doesn't look like it. Hydran, nice job from him. 3K at the end. Lukemino jumps off the map to make sure he doesn't give any staggered ult charge either.
Oh no, the overcommitment from Eternal, down a player. They try to just chunk through the fight with 2 ultimates thrown in, but it just means when they lose it, it's all the more punishing because now they don't have stall potential. Defiant will have an Amp Matrix as well as a Blizzard to come through, and Eternal, yes, they have an Amp Matrix and an Overclock, but Defiant have the point to be able to hide right behind.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit interesting to see if the Vegas Eternal can actually capitalize off of having these 2 very, very important ultimates with that Baptiste and that Sojourn ultimate, while they actually get hit by Speedily's May ultimate on the point. The Blizzard hits flush. Also, here comes that Symmetra and their own Ant Matrix, so it looks like the Vegas Eternal really couldn't get a good setup. They dropped Ant Matrix and that Overclock, but it results in nilch. The Toronto Defiant are going to win on Gardens and take round number 1.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to acknowledge when you're lacking that burst damage potential of the Sojourn, that the fight is lost. I understand why they overcommit. They know that they're so far behind in terms of point percentage. They feel like they have to just throw ultimates in the hopes that Dove is going to be able to power slide across that gap and come back in the hero of the hour with that ultimate. But it just doesn't play out for Eternal as we head now into Control Center, and that means that we're very unlikely to see any change of these tanks. Collusion can stick with this Reinhardt, the Symmetra, and the May still there for Defiant, and this is the map where it's more meta than on Garden, so Eternal really have their work cut out for them.
They do, and I think for the Vegas Eternal, they're obviously leaning towards having Dove on more of that hit scan DPS role instead of Maltho playing that Hanzo, which is kind of where they found success, at least recently, but, you know, with things changing as frequently as they have been, it can still go in their favor. Already going out of that white room into the midst of a brawl towards where Collusion is. They actually find him early. The teleporter was there to save Collusion, as the rest of Toronto Defiant, kind of on a different page, just wanted to play safe. And in fact, they'll just take Collusion out of that fight, give up the point temporarily, and wait for him to come back.
Yeah, good read from Eternal, understanding that it's a Reinhardt composition they're playing into, so they actually don't swap Dove off of that Symmetra, so he's able to burn through that shield, and no one from Defiant can peel because they're walking into the pummel. Now Defiant, however, going for a very fast contest, actually stop Eternal from picking up that first percentage.
Yeah, they come back towards that point. Immediately, Ant Matrix is committed from Ultraviolet over the top. Can they find the kills? Vulcan actually gets charged while using the ultimate. Nice charge from Kaluj onto Vulcan. Ultraviolet also connects onto Dub. And even though they did flip up the point eventually, they'll get it back in their favor as the Vegas Eternal only get up to 10%.
Yeah, and Vulcan will 100% want that Annihilation back because now Eternal don't have it to try and break through into this next fight. Lumino does have the Ant Matrix, but Defiant are going to be able to, with this Lucio composition, immediately disengage it. So it's about how much value can Eternal find off of the rip.
Yeah, they're walking in at the moment, waiting, like you said, off the rip. Maybe that's going to be an important factor for Vegas as they walk in, dropping the Symmetra wall towards the point, speedily building up towards that Blizzard. It's been a big catalyst for the Toronto Defiant. Maltho, nice shot through that Ant Matrix to take out speedily. Hydra on the left side gets that immortality field to sustain himself. Dove goes down because the beat drop from OG sustained them as well. Eventually OG falls actually to Maltho, drops the Blizzard on the point too. You'd think they could have gotten more value, but with that May ultimate committed, the Blizzard from Maltho to find those 3 kills in this fight really has given Vegas Eternal a breath of life of here into this point. They're going to reclaim it as well, and Toronto Defiant only up to 45%.
It's the Ant Matrix. The fact that they wait for Speedily to use that May wall early, that's when Lumino goes for the Amp, and as a result, Defiant don't have the wall to block the initial burst damage from the window. Defiant do still have ultimates to work with, however, and you're a Reinhardt into a Ramatra. The second you see that shield, you could just walk past and shatter.
Yeah, there's so many fights with these teleporters. They walk into Vulcan, drop the Blizzard. Rack Attack tries to counter with a beat drop. In fact, none of them get frozen on the side of the Vegas Eternal, so they did a good job counter-engaging in Ultraviolet to try to give the Toronto Defiant a bit more of advantage here. Drops the Ant Matrix and actually connects onto Vulcan with the rest of his team, and in fact, flip the point. Even though there's 4 members of the Vegas Eternal alive, they're going to get staggered here. Maltho does eventually find Kaluj, but the point flips back for the Toronto Defiant.
Yeah, the key factor for Defiant in this next fight, however, is that they're still holding on to the Shatter. So they're actually going to be able to have it to land onto Vulcan. And remember, this is the patch where Annihilation does not just eternally tick through. If you're able to disengage it, it's going to be cancelled out.
They're going early. They want to stop Vulcan from setting up here. The charge attempted to come through, but a nice boot to force Kaluj away, but the Shatter connects onto Vulcan and Maltho. They both fall instantaneously, 80% now on the board, and they used a bit of ultimates, but the Vegas Eternal in a bit of a rough spot.
Gorgeous Shatter connects onto almost everyone on Eternal. Also means that you're not able to throw the lamp out to save your Ramatra, so Annihilation dwindles down to nothing, as Defiant now get to play incredibly aggressively. Even if they get pushed on by Eternal, they're going to have that Symmetra TP to be able to fall back.
Well, there's that TP into Maywall. They knew they were coming white, so Toronto Defiant focused up on that area. In fact, it looks like Rack Attack is the one to touch the point. Kaluj comes back for him. Hydrant on that front line, trying to get some damage onto the people coming to touch that point. The Immortality Field was already used by Lumino and taken out, but a nice May ultimate from Maltho, and Dove with the follow-up damage of Lumino as well gives him that point flip last second.
Well, it's one that Eternal needed. The problem is they have no ultimates to work with in this next fight, and Defiant have liked to play quickly, so Eternal aren't even going to get the time to be able to build up either ultimates or point percentage to match Defiant. They need Malfoy to come in with an early pick before Defiant can collapse onto the point.
Yeah, this ultimate disadvantage is going to be a big deal. Maybe Rack Attack could get that beat, or Vulcan goes the Annihilation, but Toronto Defiant are really not letting them set up here. Dropping the Amplification Matrix is Ultraviolet towards the main side, but knowing that it's kind of all the way back here, they don't play too aggressive. In fact, it's Maltho again, Mox. You talked about it with the pickoff on the Ultraviolet in the Ant Matrix. That's massive from him, but he does get traded out by Speedily. The beat drop is here. Maybe the ult deficit was too much. The freeze comes through onto Vulcan with the Blizzard. Speedily eventually finds him, and unfortunately, Rack Attack's beat is eventually pulled off. Dove also falls. That's all the damage gone. Kaluj also shatters. Lumino and Toronto Defiant are going to take map number 1.
Yeah, ultimate deficit, unfortunately just too big a hurdle for Eternal to be able to climb over. But still, signs of life from the team, really able to move forward into control center, a point where arguably the Reinhardt composition is even stronger than at Gardens, but deal with it far easier than we saw on that point of Gardens, where they really seemed to struggle around playing around collusion. The fact that Defiant would just huddle behind that Reinhardt shield time and time again.
Yeah, I think Toronto Defiant did a fantastic job, and you know, we kind of talked about how recently the Vegas Eternal have been looking better, right? Obviously, throughout the season, it's been a rough start, similar to, it's actually been worse than the San Francisco Shock, to be honest. But with their lineup, right, Maltho has been a big, you know, proponent of them popping off with him on the Hanzo. Maybe towards that utility May role it changes the dynamic. But obviously, next map is going to be Blizzard World. We'll go for that map number 2. We'll see if the Vegas Eternal can come back after a short break.
Like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the. Wake up, get out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Can't stop for the talking. Hot like fire on the pun. If you wanna touch me, please use caution.
Welcome back, everybody. We have some changes in this matchup so far between the Toronto Defiant and the Vegas Eternal. Obviously, map number 1 on Lijiang Tower goes in the favor of Toronto Defiant, but now on Blizzard World, we have some substitutions. Sam will be coming in for Hydra, and it looks like, Moxie.
Yeah, no surprises. As we head towards Blizzard World, it's likely that Defiant want to field towards something like the Sombra and the Tracer, and I know that you're expecting, or at least hoping, that we're going to see a different change-up on the other side as well, that Eternal are going to push towards having Malval on that Hanzo. I'm in the same sort of line of thought as you in terms of that one, being able to use those Sonics and catch the Sombra stealth. Really crucial to giving your backline a lot more survivability.
Yeah, I think it's, if you're on the same train of thought here, it just makes sense based on what we've seen previously. And on a more open map, you know, obviously you can maybe adjust to having Malphite and the Han. So I can understand why on Lijiang Tower it's not exactly feasible considering Mei is such a prominent character on that map. But maybe on something like Blizzard World, this seems like it could be their play. But still, you're against the Toronto Defiant, who are arguably have been the better team so far this season.
Yeah, Sam also has an incredibly good Hanzo as well, so if he does want to go toe-to-toe in terms of distance and forgo that stealth dive alongside Kalush, the option is there for Defiant. But talking about predominant heroes, Rakatak is known for his Brigida, so he's going to be trying to play as safely and as closely to Luke Mino on this Ana as possible, because Vulcan is a brilliant target for peeling, but is also just an absolute ultimate battery for these Hanzos once defense matrix is gone.
Yeah, really has to be cautious of those arrows coming in. A quick rotate from the Toronto Defiant towards the inside angle to not allow Vegas Eternal maybe some poke damage in the main side to avoid being picked off. But, you know, during this rotate, it's kind of, you know, prohibiting their Hanzo from finding opening picks too. But they do come through that backside. OG gets taken down, poked incredibly low, but has the armor and the damage reduction there. Nice nade. Was that a 4-man anti-unit from Luke Mino? Not eaten by Kalush, but eventually the Toronto Defiant heal it up. They get healthy and come above this top side of the point, kind of rotating all around the Vegas Eternal. Neither Hanzo able to find that pick off that either team is looking for at the current moment. Malphite goes really low, all the way down to 1 HP, but it's Rakatak to fall early to a dive from the Toronto Defiant. Dub does trade it back with OG falling on the other side. So both Brigitas removed. Kalush comes back into Luke Mino, who is now left alone, and Ultraviolet is also over here. Connects on the anti-unit. Vulcan lost mech, and Toronto Defiant win this first fight. Now just have to clean up Malphite and are going to take this point A.
I mean, it's the fight that's won on rotations for Defiant. The fact that they're able to loop around the back and remove that high ground control for Eternal just means that there's no place of safety for the backline. And the fact that Rakatak isn't actually playing alongside Luke Mino, he's having to help Vulcan out on the front line so that Speedly isn't able to just blink past and jump on that Ana. Really goes to show how pressed Eternal were for controlling that space. Now, however, they're going to try to take it away from Defiant, that high ground again in their line of sight, so that the Divas can just sit up there without having to use a booster cooldown.
Malphite, nice pick onto Sam over the high ground. That's what the Vegas Eternal need in order to win on this map. 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Dove has this pulse bomb ready to go. He's waiting to use it because of that defensive matrix from Collusion, also the shield. It's kind of hard to fit in that pulse bomb, but Malphite over the top of this turret, just looking for damage down below. Speedily goes down this low ground with those heals from OG with the rally, but the nano boost comes out from Luke Mino to peel off of that tracer dive from Speedily. In case of the pulse bomb, hit a counter pulse bomb from Dove, connects into the wall, so no hit from that. OG now gets nano boosted and runs towards the other side as they have the ultimate advantage. D-Bomb goes very far into the backline and connects onto Ultraviolets a bit late in that fight. Vulcan also eventually will fall, but Toronto Defiant come out on top in this one.
Yeah, really good plays coming out from Defiant, just making sure that Eternal don't really get to have that control that they were looking to establish. As we can see that Luke Mino actually thought about maybe swapping to the Moira for survivability, given the fact that Speedly and Collusion just try to hunt this Ana down time and time again. Rakatak on that break, still going to be playing up towards the high ground, so that Malphite does get the opportunity to pepper these arrow shots into Defiant, maybe find a one-shot that's going to push this attacking side immediately back.
Yeah, Sam kind of is playing like a counter dive angle, aware of this tracer, really just trying to play for his life. Will now take that high ground angle, but really not too aggressively because he knows Vulcan can rotate onto him very fast, but still with that ultimate advantage, the Toronto Defiant are sitting very, very strongly at the moment. They have a good setup now on the high ground. An arrow actually connected from Malphite to the shoulder of Ultraviolet, but no headshot for him just yet. Sam attempts to walk out here, but Vulcan gets poked down incredibly low, comes back to Luke Mino, who has built up that nano boost Dragon Strike towards the cart to potentially zone it off and try to push it in as Vulcan comes through and touches the point. A nice pulse bomb from Speedily on a Rakatak, who was trying to maybe avoid that pulse bomb, cannot at the end of the day. Speedily, a nice pulse from him. Malphite though does trade it back. Ultraviolet went down and cannot build any nano boost in this fight. OG, knowing his support duo is down, has to rally and then go aggressive with this. The Dragon Strike tries to zone off that payload, but it might not be enough to stop the Toronto Defiant from capturing this second point. They're slowly going to stagger out here. So Rakatak comes through to touch this point, but with 2 minutes and 26 seconds, they now capture the second point, moving on to third.
Yeah, Speedly goes absolutely nuts in the backline at the same time as Kalush is actually able to defense matrix Dove's pulse bomb. So Eternal not able to find that zoning ultimate of pushing Defiant back and giving themselves a little bit of breathing room as they're still being hounded. Vulcan on that Diva does have self-destruct if he does come under too much fire. Just trying again to take away this high ground control from Defiant so that Sam on the Hanzo and Speedly don't just get so much freedom to be able to push onto Luke Mino on the Ana, who's just not been having a great game at all because every single time he makes any movement, Defiant are just on top of him.
Yeah, they're all over at the current moment. And also you have Ultraviolet shooting his backline because he's given so much space. No dive really coming through onto him. Speedily really pressuring his backline. Pulse bomb connects into Luke Mino. What a great job he's done so far. Sam also connects into Vulcan, who was attempting to remech, and now Rack Attack with that shield being absolutely destroyed has nowhere else to run, even with the rally. And this is just a dominant performance so far from the Defiant.
Falcon's going over to the Ramatra to try and punish if Defiant try to huddle through so that the Pummels can connect onto as many players as possible. With that block as well, might be able to survive long enough for Luke Mino to be able to board into the Nano Boost. It's the only chance Eternal have.
Entering into Vulcan as he attempts to touch the payload. Rack Attack goes low again and falls to Speedily once more. And Dove does trade it back though. Nice pulse bomb from him to attempt to make it even in this fight, but a rally here could sustain them, although Maltho and Dove are finally getting those kills that the Vegas Eternal need. Connect onto two Toronto Defiant members, and surely OG's going to have to reset and regroup.
Yeah, Dove landing that pulse bomb as well as the nano boost from Luke Mino, able to land onto Vulcan and keep that Ramatra topped up on that payload, means that Defiant aren't able to actually fully push. Sam's going to be going on to the Genji as we see OG and Rack Attack both swapping onto the Kiriko for extra survivability when the Tracer try to hunt them down with the pulse bomb.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of an interesting swap as well. Gives some pick potential too with those kunai. And Sam now comes over that right side as the Vegas Eternal kind of split off with their DPS and backline. In fact, his Rack Attack on this left side too. OG well aware of that, comes through to support that flanking angle. Dove has to recall in front of literally everybody, but can regroup to the rest of his team, but has to give up that positioning. Vulcan goes incredibly low, and the pulse bomb yet again from Speedily. I'm curious what his attach rate is so far, but Maltho, nice shot from across the map. The log connects into OG's face to get rid of that support player of the Toronto Defiant. Potentially going to slow them down, but they're all over the payload. Maltho, though, Dragon Strike connects onto Sam, who was low after a shot came through from Luke Mino, and now Dove can go aggressive on this back line. Is holding that pulse bomb, though, because they have such a big advantage. And that's yet again another reset for the Toronto Defiant.
Yeah, Dove as well, pushing onto Ultraviolet, actually had a domino effect of forcing Collusion to boosting away from the frontline duel and peeling back for his Ana in case that pulse bomb tried to come out onto his support. As now we're going to see full swap come through from Collusion onto the Winston to be able to try and push after with Sam and Speedly there for the follow-up. Swapping a composition, though, does reset your ultimate charge, so he's going to have to build up Primal, but does have the Nano Boost to be able to really find that cleave.
Dove has the recall, still has that pulse bomb ready to go into Ultraviolet, but it's not using it. In fact, nobody else looking at him because they've already taken out Vulcan on that front line with that Kitsune Rush pulse bomb from Dove. No recall, he might have thought he had it up in time, but Speedily came back from the peel. What an intelligent play from the Tracer player of the Toronto Defiant. Now up 2 members. They just rotate towards that payload. Maltho trying to make something work, but not even near the payload is anybody the Vegas Eternal, so the Toronto Defiant will capture out with 24 seconds.
Yeah, Defiant understanding that they literally just need not even a full fight win, but to keep Eternal occupied long enough that they can finally push that payload through. That's why we see Kalush actually swap onto the Winston. Doesn't have to build up a Primal. Ultraviolet already has the Nano Boost, and that's normally what these Winston players wait for, right? The dive doesn't fully come out with that commitment until the Ana has the ultimate to allow them to really have that threat behind those jumps. As Eternal, with that Nano to Winston in their face, have no choice but to bend the knee and give the ground, allowing Defiant, despite not finding a team kill, to at least be able to finish off the map.
And now on the defensive side, Moxie, it seems like Defiant with Sam maybe not getting the pickoffs that Maltho has been, but really Sam kind of pressuring maybe this front line, allowing Speedily to really get a lot of work done. It feels like this Tracer of the Toronto Defiant has been a nuisance, really a thorn in the side of the Vegas Eternal at the current moment.
Yeah, especially because he's keeping Malfield's full attention. So all of these Sonics aren't really going into trying to figure out the Tracer's location and marking Speedily, which as a result puts even more pressure onto this backline of Rack Attack and Luke Mino because they have no clue where the Tracer is going to be until Speedily shows up and just burns through one player in the blink of an eye.
8 seconds left to their attack. For the defensive side, it appears the Vegas Eternal are locking towards that Brigitte Hanzo composition again, or sorry, Hanzo composition again on the defense, and Vegas Eternal doing a very similar thing, teleporting out of spawn, see if they opt to rotate in a similar trajectory to the Toronto Defiant, but they look like they're just going to go through that main side and set up their aim on that left angle.
OG just playing Bouncer at the moment, protecting Ultraviolet if that dive comes through onto the Ana. It's going to be down to the Hansers! One shot is all you need, and Malfield finds it!
What a nice shot from Maltho on that right side of speedily trying to hide above the high ground, but once you're kind of in those neutral angles, Maltho really gets to work, and Dove also to find Sam. That should open things for the Vegas Eternal. Maybe the Toronto Defiant will attempt to regroup as a unit and recontest. They've done it previously. Speedily is back in this fight now. He can easily touch the point, still has that recall. Eventually will touch the last second, but has to recall. Can anybody else touch? Nope, Kaluj attempts to, but they'll just try to keep their lives as the Vegas Eternal capture point A and now take this neutral fight in second point.
Yeah, good split focus coming through from Eternal to make sure that both of the entrances in that fight are checked out by Defiant, as no one able to touch on the point. And we go into streets with, oh, Kaluj is able to actually boost after Vulcan and remove the Diva mech, and Vulcan as a result goes straight into the drink.
Well, yeah, he would have been fine, but got flailed by OG as he left. So really just kind of a bit aggressive play from Vulcan, trying to make something work for the Vegas Eternal. I mean, I respect the idea. Unfortunately, didn't work out, but that gives, Toronto Defiant time to build up those ultimates in which they use the nano boost on OG and to send him into dive. How many times do you see this now? These Brigittas just go aggressive with that rally. Oh my God, Dove pulse bombs himself, and Sam takes him out of the fight as well as himself. So that might give some space now in the spawn doors, as Dove at least has those close spawns, and Toronto Defiant will have to wait for Sam to come back. So they'll attempt to regroup here now.
Yeah, but more time burnt off the clock, and that essentially makes up for how fast Eternal were able to push through from A, as the rally from that choke knight comes out from Defiant to push onto these members of Eternal looking to cross into that corner. More time that they just have to give over to Defiant.
Yeah, maybe a bit too telegraphed, though. Vegas Eternal were expecting Toronto Defiant to come back into this, knowing they wanted to wait for Sam. They needed to make some sort of play on that front line. Two ultimates use Speedily's pulse bomb and the rally. So now Raktak, knowing that, uses his own rally to go aggressive. They spot out Ultraviolet, but nobody's really in position to dive him, just letting him sit aggressively behind this pillar. Nobody's set up. I don't know where Dove is. Maybe looking on that left side, or somebody on the side of Vegas Eternal looking for him. Looks like Dove's just taking the 1v1 and eventually dies towards the mini. Maybe ill-advised, little off I don't know, pace of his team. Interesting play from him, and now Maltho goes aggressive towards the mini, also falls. Both of the DPSs of the Vegas Eternal falling in what seemed to be a massive advantage for the Vegas Eternal will crumble.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough as well for Eternal to break through this choke, because anytime that they make any progress of ground, Sam can just throw in the Dragon Strike, Kalush, the self-destruction. That progress is immediately going to be reset to having to get through choke once more.
Dragon Strike now from the Toronto Defiant to separate this backline. Vulcan drops the Diva bombs to make sure no more pressure can come through, but it's Sam to find Malfo on the inside. The Hanzo trying to re-peek his head, but will get his head removed by Sam on that fight. Now Toronto Defiant, knowing they have the man advantage, will then push forward. And this is that aggression that we would have liked to see out of the Vegas Eternal. Instead, on the other side for the Toronto Defiant, they will be the ones to press the gas and will come forward towards the spawn of the Vegas Eternal now.
I mean, Defiant may well be able to guarantee that position into last chance qualifiers off of this map alone. Remember, they only needed 2 maps, and London are going to be watching. There is absolutely nothing they can do but hope that Eternal are going to be able to turn this around, but only with a nano boost in this next fight. It doesn't feel like that's the moment to be able to do it. The best that they can hope is that they burn a couple more ultimates from Defiant's side so that they are better equipped in the fight after.
Yeah, Dove trying to take that left flank, but deals now with Speedily, and the nano boost Brigitte yet again onto OG into that backline. Ultraviolet wants to go aggressive too, but he gets anti-gated a bit too aggressive for him. Maybe Vulcan also booted him off the high ground. Vulcan also follows through onto Kalush, who was throwing an aggressive Diva bomb. So stopping this push so far from the Toronto Defiant, and eventually Sam did get the pick on Lumino after going aggressive, but the Vegas Eternal will reclaim the card.
But that's 1, 2, 3 ultimates now taken away from Defiant. And they will have Dragon Strike and Rally in this next engagement, but Eternal, because they're actually able to find those kills without ultimates other than the Nano Boost, are going to be set up for this next fight as well. And they've now got that poke phase on lock. Malfield is going to potentially be able to find another opening headshot onto another member of Defiant to open the fight up.
Yeah, when you rely entirely on your Hanzo like this, it's a little rough to get a victory for the side of the Vegas Eternal. The rally then comes through from OG. Now they dive into the back line to really shut down Maltha, already removed. Look at that, just immediately dives on him, although Ultraviolet goes low into the back line. Just Vulcan diving onto him alone. Now the rally just to try to counter OG in his own on the front line. Dub is going to get the cart into the payload at the very last second in the second point. Okay, that's what we would call a C9. I know there's a lot of arguments. What a play from Dub to capture on second point. Toronto Defiant a bit too aggressive. They're still fighting towards the end here, not caring. The objective was just captured, and forward spawns are now received.
Yeah, reset the sat nav, guys. Make a U-turn. That's not the destination you need to be at the moment, as Eternal doing a very good job of just playing smoke and mirrors, right? Defiant think that they're pushing onto Eternal, looking for that full just fight claim of the high ground once more, and in the meantime, Dove on the Trace was just pushing the card. Marfil even throwing in the Dragon Strike a little bit late as well to keep Defiant distracted so they're not able to turn on to the Tracer, as Dove now just going for that Ash pick for a moment to try and punish Defiant holding this close to Eternal spawn before swapping back to that Tracer.
Yeah, this is an interesting angle for the Toronto Defiant. Very rarely do we see teams set up on second point Blizzard World to stop the cart once it's in third phase. It's not moving yet, so it's working for them so far. Use the Nano Brigitte Rack Attack shield, blocks the pulse bomb from Speedily. Vulcan eventually finds Sam, and yeah, we're seeing why potentially this is not really a normal thing that a lot of teams like to do. Sam does get picked, and eventually Vegas Eternal surely will get some kills here, but they're not doing so very quickly. The Diva Bomb from Kalush to try to zone. OG does find Malthol, but eventually Vulcan gets slept in this backline, just trying to delay that rally from getting a lot of value. They're still not getting any payload progress, the Vegas Eternal, even though they're in their own spawn. This is brutal. This is disgusting. 3 members of the Toronto Defiant, now 4. I'm surely they're going to regroup in a second. Vulcan also lose mech. OG connects on a rack attack and Mouthful as well. Vulcan will remech on that payload. They get a little farther into that third phase, but man, this is rough for the freaking Vegas Eternal, man.
I mean, how do you collapse onto Ultraviolet? That's the problem that Eternal are dealing with right now. Because they're stuck in these C spawns, they have actual no way of pushing onto an Ana of Ultraviolet who's set up all the way on B's high grounders. Oh my goodness, guys. There's such a thing as too much salt. I feel as Sam just sends a Dragon Strike into Eternal spawn.
Bro, I can't. How do we catch this? Like, as OG goes down to Malthol, though they do come back in this fight. They Dragon Strike the spawn doors, which will eventually result in them maybe being a little bit overconfident, because even if it's overtime for the Vegas Eternal, if they capture out, you know, they'll still have a chance on their attack, since the Toronto Defiant only captured out the objective with 24 seconds.
The problem is that Eternal are so far away from that finish line. We're going to hit into overtime, and they're not really running anything other than this Ram Shield that can block Kaluja's self-destruct. So if Defiant literally just wait for overtime to activate and then throw self-destruct in, Eternal are going to have to abandon the objective.
Yeah, they have to abandon the objective, so Vegas Eternal have the payload for now. 7 seconds left now, going in towards that overtime and last fight territory. Kalush still has that Diva Bomb pulse available for Speedily as well. Malthol looking for that opening pick every time. The longer these fights go, the more it gives opportunity for Malthol to get picks, but also Sam on the other side. Nice pick from him on a rack attack, and the Nano Boost came through onto Vulcan. Maybe not the target he exactly wanted, but Sam going aggressive with the Storm Arrow from that top side to connect onto his counterpart. Nice shot from him. Speedily, another pulse bomb as well. I believe he's had about like a 50% sticky rate as well. Sam to find those final blows. The Toronto Defiant will stop the Vegas Eternal in third phase.
Well, Toronto Defiant are going to be looking incredibly happy with themselves, as that is one massive part of stress of this match taken off of their shoulders. Taking those 2 maps, they are guaranteed to be able to qualify into the last chances, and London, unfortunately, despite coming out on top of this very team yesterday, are not going to be able to make it any further.
I mean, it's so interesting that a lot of these teams, by the way, we're just looking at a little bit of replays, nice shots from Malthol, the few highlight plays the Vegas Eternal had. Yeah, it's nice for the Toronto Defiant to push forward, considering they did, like you said, lose to the London Spitfire yesterday. And obviously, you know, this is like, I think, a good sign for the London Spitfire moving forward, potentially. Like, obviously, to get that win over the Toronto Defiant. I've got to be honest, Moxie, watching this game, you know, watching the Vegas Eternal versus the Toronto Defiant, it feels like the stonks of both teams for me are just dropping. Like, it feels like the Toronto Defiant are, like, not a great team, but, like, the Vegas Eternal are just, like, on a bad team, and just their morale is just absolutely decimated at the current moment. I just want them to potentially come through on these next maps, regroup as a unit, come back, show up a bit on Shambali Monastery, maybe get something going on the future matchups. Obviously, Toronto Defiant, they gotta feel good, but the series isn't over yet. Obviously, they want to get that win. After this short break, we'll see if Toronto Defiant can close out on Shambali. Welcome back, everybody. We have a substitution in the matchup between the Toronto Defiant and the Vegas Eternal. Hydron coming in for Sam last map. Obviously, Sam playing a lot of the Hanzo. Hydron maybe going to play something different on the next map, which will be Shambali Monastery. Toronto Defiant look to be obviously the better team so far, Moxie. 2-0 over the Vegas Eternal, who are 0-7. Obviously, for the Toronto Defiant, that's good news for them because, like you said, that secures them that chance in the last chance qualifiers.
Yeah, 2 maps was the magic number that Defiant needed to be able to clutch out. Even if they'd lost, even if it had gone to 5 maps, as long as they'd been able to take 2 maps away, they would be able to secure their position in those last chance qualifiers. And by domino effect, that does mean that London are officially officially eliminated from being able to make it into those and having any chance of making it into mid-season madness. But heading into Shambali Monastery, I'm hoping that we're still going to see Eternal push to take this map. They were having some really good opening picks coming out from Malthael on the Hanzo on Blizzard World and on Shambali, where some of these line of sights are just so long and so open. The Hanzo is the player that you rely on the most for those opening picks.
Moxie, you're sounding a lot like me before the match where I was in the Vegas Turtle had a chance, and I was just like, yeah, they're gonna have a chance. You sound like me right now. I'm hoping that Malthael can find those opening picks, and don't know if that's gonna happen. We'll see. Obviously, he's gonna play the Mei on the defensive dub, gonna be on that Sojourn, and like you said, Moxie, maybe London Spitfires have a bit more time to hit the gym, considering they're not going to be in the last chance qualifiers.
Wow, you really just want to ignite another Twitter feud.
Hey, listen, I love seeing Hattie on Twitter. He's the GOAT. I love, dude. This is so fun.
I'm gonna get some popcorn on the stove and sit down at my PC tonight and see exactly what all of our viewers have cooked up, as well as our players, because. I'm pretty sure London could quite easily just bench press a whole lot more than you could at any moment.
Damn. Okay, well, I'm getting roasted by Omar Caster right now. What the hell? What's going on over here? But Vegas Turtle obviously going to be locking the Sojourn. Same with Hydron on his own. You know, coming out of spawn doors immediately. Both teams just building up their railgun charge. Immortality Field used on both sides. Both of them eventually will fall as well to Sam and Malthael, respectively. Vulcan goes incredibly low in the front line now without the Immortality Field. Surely he will fall. Yep, OG eventually connects onto him, and so does Rack Attack fall to Hydron as well. And that's just a bit of a clean wipe now for the Toronto Defiant, who have built up some good ultimates.
Yeah, if you want your answer to the question of why Hydron was subbed in for this very map, it's so he can play the Sojourn. And he excels at the Sojourn. We've seen him play it on push. We get to see it here played on Shambali for all of the reasons why Hanzo can be incredibly crucial. Really nice open lines of sight and a lot of pressure, taking away some of those opening angles that Eternal have when those spawn doors open.
Yeah, this map is so interesting to me because, like, obviously I've never played on it professionally, and it's such a new map as of recently in Overwatch 2. Window dropped by Luke Mino on that backside in this little ramp where a lot of teams, actually, I don't know if a lot of teams like to fight here necessarily. They drop the window there. Luke Mino goes incredibly low. Eventually, Immortality Field will fall. Maybe that's why they give up a lot of the space. Luke Mino now kind of caught out away from his team, is going to be charged at by Kaluj, but the rest of the Vegas General there with the peel eventually, or the Toronto Defiant drop the Immortality Field to save Kaluj on that fight, and no but deaths just yet. Just Immortality Field's being traded up, but it's Hydron yet again finds Dub on that off angle as on the front line. Kaluj goes a bit too aggressive into the front line, cannot get the beat drop from OG. The Mei ultimate, the Blizzard, connects onto OG to freeze him up here last second as well. Eventually, Hydron yet again finds those kills that are required for the Toronto Defiant as the overclock is popped as well. Nice 2K, now 3K for him onto that point to give them that first point.
Yeah, really good positioning as well of the power slide. Hydron just cutting off Eternal's chance of exiting when that overclock starts to come on through. If you want to disengage the Sojourn ultimate, unfortunately you have to run directly into the Sojourn themselves, and Hydron is not going to miss that close a shot, as Eternal will still have a majority of ultimates coming into this next fight in comparison to what Defiant had to throw in. Mistiming that barrier unfortunately meant that they lost both the Annihilation and the Silent Barrier for Defiant to have in this next fight.
Yeah, rough fights so far for the Vegas Eternal. They try to walk in, drop the amplification matrix into the main side, but a counter one from Ultraviolet, and Kaluj through it can just pummel on through Malthael's face, and he falls no longer in this fight, knowing that the Vegas Eternal are going to try to back up, wait for him to come back. They haven't really... They've tried to explode with some ultimates, but every time they do so, they just get countered. Now, on that front line, Vulcan drops the Annihilation, but actually falls to both Sam, and then Hydron finds Rack Attack. Even though they have the ult advantage, they're the ones to die. Dove eventually tries to back off through this off angle. Toronto Defiant, though, now 5 minutes in that third phase.
Yeah, no Immortality Field, no Silent Barrier. Vulcan is incredibly squishy when he goes for that Annihilation mode, and all of Defiant just immediately laser focus the tank down. Dove not really getting that space to breathe either. Hydron doing a very good job of just continuing to apply the pressure. Since he didn't die, he's still sitting on that railgun charge. Dove unfortunately having to put it up anew.
Sitting in this main side, Carp being pushed in the third phase. Hydron now waiting maybe on this right side, baiting out a Maywall, potentially almost gets his head ripped off by Dub, who's playing back, yet to use that overclock. Now he uses it, but what value does he find on this left side? It's actually good value. Connects onto Hydron, connects onto him to get rid of him in that fight. Lucamino also finds Sam too, and now this is finally going to push off the Toronto Defiant and give the Vegas Eternal a fight win.
Yeah, there are some really hard pushes for the attacking team to be able to take fights on Shambali. On B, if the defenders are in control of the high ground, a lot of the time you just lose players in the rotation and time is burnt off of that. Heading into C, trying to get out of that tunnel and move into the open space is another problematic area, especially if you're running into something like a mate who can just wall off that other push that you can come through from side room.
Very aggressive push with Sam dropping that Blizzard onto Vulcan on the cart. Immortality Field is there and beat drop, but that's not enough to save him because there's also an amplification matrix there from Ultraviolet on that side. And now the Vegas Eternal, they attempt to trade it back, finding Ultraviolet. Eventually Sam finds him. Lucamino also connecting onto Sam, but it's Hydran on that main side with the overclock, just looking for these stagger kills though. Rack Attack finds Kalush. These are some good stagger kills from the Vegas Eternal because now in this fight it's only OG and Hydron.
Yeah, but Defiant have been able to break through from choke, and now the fight is out in the open. Hydron gets a lot more space to be able to play around with, and Eternal have to go for the contest on that cart, hoping that the little pillars, the statues that they have, are going to provide enough line of sight cut off that he's not going to be able to find those snipes.
Look at the aggressiveness from Hydran, just constantly knowing he's in a good spot to play aggressive and find that poke value. Looks for Dub on the left side with the charged up railgun shot. Annihilation from Gluge also is popped, but it's countered by Vulcan. However, the beat drop overlayered for Toronto Defiant gives him that health pool advantage. Malthael will fall, even though Lucamino attempted to drop the Immortality Field. Eventually, Vulcan falls over. Nobody else here. Lucamino falls. Rack Attack running across this left side just to delay the payload for a bit longer. But 2 minutes and 30 seconds now. Toronto Defiant capture out on that third phase.
Yeah, Annihilation Mirror is always going to go in favor of the Ram who has a sound barrier to be able to bolster their health bar. So Defiant are going to come out on top of that engagement. And for Eternal, it's just about managing that sort of numbers that they're going to lose on the disengage. The problem is that the card is so close to the finish line, they can't disengage it fully. They're forced to take the damage and hope that they're going to be able to slow Defiant down. But Defiant are the exact opposite. 2 minutes 28 for a full push of Shambali is absolute light speed on this map.
Yeah, that's so fast. It's literally. I mean, I'm curious all the times that we've seen on Shambali Monastery. 2 minutes and 28 is definitely up there with the best of them. And obviously, for the Toronto Defiant side, they're looking good right now, Moxie, compared to the Vegas Eternal. I mean, is it fair to say that putting Hydron back in the game gives them a bit more of an edge than maybe other compositions with like Sam and Speedily, or is this theory crafting that we don't really need to do since we're not coaches?
I mean, again, if you want to play a Sojourn who's going to be able to power slide around these Maywall cutoffs and provide that extra little bit of pressure, as well as shutting down some of those really tight corners that the defense, especially when they're playing a Ramatra, want to play around, so that when all of the team are pushing forward, similar to a Reinhardt, you're set up around a corner to be able to cleave into as many of them as possible. You're not standing in that space if a Disruptor Shot is taking your health down. So Hydron's doing a very good job of taking what should be advantages for Eternal and turning it on their heads.
All right, well, let's see on their defensive side. I mean, you're right, Hydron really has been a difference maker for the Toronto Defiant. The Vegas Eternal attempt to walk out of spawn with the teleporter onto the top. That's a very interesting angle, giving Rack Attack an integrated out of the spawn, but they do lose him to Hydron on the backside. Immortality Field connects onto Maltha to keep him alive for a bit longer. Dub also finds Hydron. These are opening picks the Vegas Eternal desperately need to try to turn this map on its head. They eventually will connect onto Sam, OG, and Kaluge to give them that first fight win.
Yeah, Sojourn into Ramatra is always really tough, right? Because unlike the Reinhardt, if you're a Ram, once you use that shield, you're not actually going to be able to move it. So if the Sojourn just saves the power slide, you're always going to be able to move straight past it, as that Symmetra TP is pretty nasty. That change of tempo Defiant were just not ready for Eternal to quite literally drop on their heads. This time around, though, that Symmetra is gone, and it's going to be a straight-up mirror.
Is it legal? Admin, please check. Evan, where you at? On the front line, Toronto Defiant tried to split at the choke point. Vegas Eternal looking to dive onto Kaluge on the inside. Sam with the peel wall. Counter wall for Malthael to try to support that push, but no kills just yet. Now Ant Matrix into the open with no Maywall to save Sam. Eventually falls to Dove. Nice job to take advantage of such a long hallway. Now they can run onto Kaluge's side, but aren't getting these kills exactly fast. Kaluge might even escape with his life to give Sam time to get back.
It's going to be Vegas Eternal coming in so close to so many ultimates, but Hydron's so close to that overclock as well. An absolute arms race between him and Malthael on this mate to hit that Blizzard in time.
They walk in, Vulcan looks to fight Kaluj in the front. Malthael as well is there with the Mei wall to maybe zone off the amplification matrix, but in this case, he actually may ultimate. He throws the Blizzard out immediately out of coming out of the ice block, but he does fall. The Immortality Field was also used to try to save him, but unfortunately, it was a bit too aggressive of a play. Dove found OG, and the counter from Toronto Defiant was there with a lot of ultimates.
Yeah, Blizzard's a little bit too late as well. If it's trying to counter the Ant Matrix has already been used before the Blizzard gets thrown. I think he was just trying to make sure that Defiant weren't able to play off of the opening that Ant Matrix could have provided for Hydron. But no matter what the choice is, Eternal still lose the ultimate, and now they're going to be relying on support ults and this overclock coming through from Dove to be able to lock the members of Defiant down. But Defiant have the space, they have the buildings to be able to reach out from line of sight to make sure that Dove just doesn't get the time.
Yeah, I think you've analyzed it perfectly. They jump down to the front line. Amplification Matrix here. Hydron, though, connects onto Malthael, who's trying to run away. The beat drop not there to save him. Now is here to sustain the team as an overclock from Dove allows Vulcan to find 2 pummel kills onto Ultraviolets and OG. Luke Mino also finds Sam. So it looks like on this first point, eventually the Vegas Eternal surely will capture it. Hydron does find 1 kill off the back, tries to maybe get to that window, but it's a bit too far. And eventually, Vegas Eternal capture first point A.
Okay, so that was actually Defiant going a little bit too over-aggressively after Baptiste, as they sent 2 of their players, OG being one of them, to try to track down Luke Mino, who's able to actually execute over the side of that building and make it to the other side. And in the meantime, Eternal are winning the frontline fight because you don't have a Lucio from Defiant to be able to reposition in time away from the burst damage that's coming through from Eternal's side.
Yeah, I mean, the discipline is there for the most part for the Toronto Defiant, but in that situation in particular, not really. Sam then goes for that front line shot by Dove. Nice job by him. He's finally kind of slowly working his way back into the series with that railgun shot onto Sam. But Toronto Defiant, again, this is that discipline we talked about, just waiting for Sam to come back into this fight, knowing they got picked off early to not give Vegas Eternal an edge.
Sam is close to a Blizzard as well. Kaluj going to have that Annihilation. Vulcan has it as well. And neither Lucio is actually going to be able to have a sound barrier. So it's all going to come down to which of these teams are going to be able to bait Immortality Field out first. Look, however, at Dove. He's found a side lane. He's looking for that angle to be able to push Defiant back.
Again, it's Vulcan on the front line too with the Annihilation to enable that. Hydron, though, coming back with an overclock, and that really is going to be the difference maker with the Annihilation of Kaluj on that front line rack attack. Maybe a little bit of movement. No, eventually Sam does find him with the Icicle. Too many people to deal with there, and Toronto Defiant came back, and now 2 minutes left for Vegas Eternal. Potentially we'll have to deal with Spawn Camp from the Toronto Defiant.
Well, we could see it. We really could see it, as they're going to have that window access, and that is a bird's eye view right onto the main road, and it's going to force Vegas Eternal into potentially taking a much longer and costlier flank if this fight does not go their way in terms of overall time that they have to work with.
You know, Vegas Eternal's rotation has been scouted out through that window, like you mentioned, so they are well aware what the Vegas Eternal are trying to do. It's a very long rotation for them all the way around this pillar side. Now pretty much switching locations towards the defensive side. Toronto Defiant moves towards the aggressive side. They drop the Mei wall to zone out that backline. Amplification from both Baptiste Hughes, a Mei ultimate Blizzard committed on to Vulcan, but he zoned it out. Nice job from him. Sam also ice blocks into the open, tries to find something, an overclock from Dove. What does it find? It's immediately into a wall, and also the disruptor shot. But now the Mei ultimate, the Blizzard from Malthael, connects onto 3 members, but do they have the follow-up? Yes, on Ultraviolet, no Immortality Field to save him. Rack attack connects onto him. Sam also falls. Great work from them. They work through the progressions, and the Vegas Eternal will win that team fight.
But it's a lot of time burnt off the clock. They had to actually wait through 2 cycles of the zone coming out from Kaluj before they were actually able to take the fight onto Defiant. And Defiant are going to get another chance to be able to contest. Eternal cannot afford to lose it. Otherwise, they're never going to see the payload again.
I would like Malthael to maybe go for like a Mei wall there to try to slow it down, but nope, just comes back towards this choke point. Opts to just take the neutral fight, and it works out for them. Luke Mino shuts down Kaluj. Can anybody else touch on the payload? Look at this one, but Vulcan and Dove find 2 more. Hydron and OG fall. The rest of Toronto Defiant come through just to stagger onto the point. Vegas Eternal move on to third.
It's the fight win Eternal needed, and it's clean as well coming through from them. No ultimates expended. Defiant now going to have to try to make it through spawn, as Dove is just waiting, trying to build up that railgun charge to be able to pressure Defiant into making sure that they don't get the stalwart hold over choke before the payload's through.
Kaluj over the top right, just poking out the back line. Dove maybe wanting to set up a bit more aggressive angle on that right side, and it does work out for him. Nice shot from him onto Sam. without the overclock, gets the railgun connection. Kaluj does try to pummel into Vulcan, but Vulcan's already dropped the Annihilation to counter Kaluj on the front line of the rest of the Toronto Defiant as they commit that overclock and get no value.
Ultraviolet's going to have an Ant Matrix, but Dove has the means to be able to deny it. That overclock, as well as Malthael's May Wall, if he's going to be able to time it right, will not allow Defiant to be able to anchor around this Baptiste utility. Instead, it's going to have to be picked from Hydra, but he's so far away from the overclock, and Dove already has it in pocket.
Yeah, Dove ready to go with this. This is really going to be a big test for Dove to find shots with the overclock to get that value that his team so desperately needs. Ultraviolet drops the ultimate over the top left. There's one kill. Looks onto Hydran through that window. Cannot find it necessarily. Is trying to spam it out. Look for someone on the back line, but he's missing a bit too hard. Hydran notices that. Can now come back through, but nice shot from him onto Ultraviolet, who was jumping into the air as the the May ultimate from Sam connects onto that front line. Eventually, Kaluj was also frozen, and now it's just him and OG on the point. Ultraviolet switches to Kariko. Can he come back to give him the Suzu in time? Nope. Kaluj falls OG as well. Nobody else here touches. In the Vegas Eternal, they're extending the series.
Yeah, 1 minute, however, in the time bank. It's not the blistering pace that Defiant were able to set on the board. And the problems for Eternal do not stop there. Remember, they were able to break very quickly out from point A with a surprise factor of that Symmetra TP. Defiant are now going to be fully expecting those same kinds of shenanigans and are going to position around it accordingly.
Yeah, okay, let's see if the Vegas Eternal on their attacking side. Let's see if they can pull off. You think they can pull off that TP again, Moxie? You think a little cheeky
I think
play?
Once the cat's out of the bag, it's not going to go back in. They can try it. Dove fielding that Symmetra at the moment. They are the attacking team. They can swap off of it. But Defiant are going to be wise to the fact that this is a potential play.
Yeah.
And they are going to be waiting with that May Wall and that zone from Kaluj as well. If you can just put it onto these members of Eternal. This is where we can see the sim TP right onto that high ground ledge. And everyone just immediately TPs down, and Defiant get hit by a double anti-nade rack attack. Running that Ana actually swaps off of it. It's only for that first initial push. So he can actually connect that anti-nade, and no one from Defiant has the heals. They're not running the Kiriko. They can't cleanse it. And Eternal are able to find such a clean fight win. And it looks like they're going to do it again. Rack attacks on the Ana, Dove on the Sim.
Different spot, though. They go through that left side rack attack, waiting to take the teleport. He's faking it like he's going to take it, then drops it into the back line, connects on the Hydra, forces the Immortality Field. So that's already cooldown down. And they don't even need Lucio speed. They can just play on that front line, knowing that cooldown is not available. They would probably appreciate the speed, but now another anti-grenade onto Kaluj and no Immortality Field rack attack. The swap to the Ana works out amazing for the Vegas Eternal. Hydran, though, does trade it back. Also finds Dove somehow with those 2 kills, but surely it's not going to be enough. Rack attack, was that like a 4K on final blows there? Nice work from the Vegas Eternal.
So Rack Attack on the Ana connects every single anti-nade and also lands the sleep onto OG. So Defiant don't have the means of actually being able to speed boost away from Eternal. No surprises, Rack Attack is actually going to stay on the Ana. As Defiant aren't running a dive, they have no means of being able to push onto the Ana aggressively, forcing Eternal to turn around and peel. So you keep the Ana utility and your support alive.
Yeah, screw it, I guess. I mean, just stick on the Ana if it's working. Another anti-grenade onto Kaluj. Maybe force Ultraviolet's Immortality Field. Nope. Not this time. Ultraviolet is a little bit wiser to not use that, but he did use that Regenerative Burst also on a long cooldown. That's the difficulty with Baptiste. A lot of these things are on super long cooldowns, so you need to be careful not to waste abilities. Sam goes really low in the front line, forcing the Immortality Field from him. Kaluj on that front angle where the Amplification Matrix attempts to go aggressive. Nice Ant Matrix on the cart, by the way, so it can constantly rotate. Nano Boost available for Rack Attack, drops it onto Vulcan, who pummels into the back line. Doesn't even need the speed, can just run onto Ultraviolet 2. The sleep came through onto Kaluj. They got out Ultraviolet's Baptiste window too. This is looking solid for the Vegas Eternal.
They do lose Rack Attack, and without a Lucio, it is going to be a little bit harder to be able to ferry him back into this composition before Defiant are ready to push. But Vulcan's going to be able, there it is, Rack Attack onto the Lucio to be able to recontest with his team. Maywell from Sam to make sure that Eternal aren't able to actually poke down a member of Defiant early, as they're going to have to drop from the high ground and contest this team.
Very aggressive from Lucamino, trying to do a little bit of poke, maybe a bit too greedy, cost them this fight, but they had to do something. They do have some ultimates, so maybe they could have made something work, but Toronto Defiant will come back after the checkpoint was received and stop the Vegas Eternal.
1 minute However, Eternal had to work with, and they were able to pick up the full duration of point A on Shambali, which is no easy feat, especially since Defiant were expecting that Symmetra TP and still fall afoul to the shenanigan strategies coming out from Eternal's side. However, Defiant have 3 minutes and 11 seconds, over triple the amount of time Eternal had to work with, and there were so many fights for them to be able to work with and build ultimates and just steamroll over Eternal every single step of the way.
Yeah, that's what we call in the pro scene a bit of a cheese. You know, you can get cheesed on from the Vegas Eternal who ran that Ana. If there's a cheese emoji in YouTube chat, please use it. Obviously for the Vegas Eternal now on the defensive side, going to be locking the Lucio, knowing, right, the Toronto Defiant, they can't like fuel them again with the Ana, especially on the defensive side, right?
Yeah, it feels like Defiant are a little bit allergic to the Gorgonzola, right? They fell afoul of the Reinhardt strategies coming through from London yesterday. Eternal trotting out that Symmetra Ana synergy as well, something that they're not prepared for. They're not able to adapt fast enough, but now that we're going back into this mirror matchup, this is where they've looked the strongest.
You're right. Let's see if on the defensive side, maybe a wall from Malthael can separate this backline of Toronto Defiant, but they do a good job just blasting down the Mei wall when it comes through. Kalush walks towards that cart immediately, not really pressured out by the rest of the Vegas Eternal, but now that Mei wall comes through from both of the Meis, Vegas Eternal and Toronto Defiant's Mei, dropping that cooldown. Kalush looks for Vulcan towards that payload as well and dropping some of those abilities there to potentially zone it off, as well as Hydron building up to those railgun shots, right? This guy's been absolutely lethal so far with it, but does only look for the tank, knowing Vulcan is kind of the weak link for the Vegas Eternal. Luke Mino not there with the immortality field in time to save him. And now for the Vegas Eternal, you're just looking to build some ultimate stagger on the payload. Sam also connects on Luke Mino. Dove falls. So does Rack Attack. First fight. Victory for Toronto Defiant.
Yeah, so the Surgeon going after the tank actually has a significant impact on Eternal. Not only is Vulcan forced away, not able to create the space for Dove and Malthael to work with, you're also boxing Luke Mino in terms of throwing in that Baptiste utility. Do you throw the lamp out? Because that's what Defiant are waiting for. They're going to be able to blitz the lamp and immediately blitz your tank down after. Luke Mino unfortunately holds on to it, and as a result, Vulcan does go down regardless. As Defiant now, Ultraviolet have the Amp Matrix, not on the payload itself, so it's not going to move, which does mean that Eternal have the means of being able to disengage and come back in with an Amp Matrix of their own, but Dove peaks.
This is the problem with both of these teams drop the Amp Matrixes, right? Obviously, a lot of the mechanically skilled Sojourns are going to want to take that duel, and Hydron comes out on top with that kill onto Dove, knowing he's not here. The Vegas Eternal have to take this fight, even though they're in a bit of a weird spot. Malthael drops the Blizzard, does connect on the Kalush, but he has the beat drop to sustain. Now a counter Blizzard comes through, connects on the Vulcan and Malthael with the overclock. This is far too much damage for Vegas Eternal to try to stop the Toronto Defiant's push. Rack Attack does die on that payload as well. Eventually just waiting for it to push through. GG's comes through from everybody as they capture the checkpoint. Toronto Defiant will be your victors, and obviously moving towards that last chance qualifiers, that bodes well for them moving forward.
I mean, when Hydron wants to show up on the Surgeon, he shows up in style. The entirety of Shambali, every single overclock, every single ult fire that he had, really felt like he was connecting onto those members of Eternal, and Defiant were able to pick up those 2 maps that they need, as well as another series win, and will be feeling incredibly happy heading into those last chance qualifiers where they have a chance of making it to Korea for that mid-season madness.
Moxie, that's a large. I mean, we talked about, you know, ice walls earlier and bringing your picks.
I said a chance, okay? They have a statistical possibility of making it through. There's significant work that needs to be done for this team. We were seeing a couple of times that there was overcommitment, especially when they thought that they saw one target isolated and vulnerable and just hounded it down, as opposed to spending 5 seconds seeing that they're not going to find it and immediately just pulling back. That was a problem that continued for the entirety of the series, and I think that's something that they're going to need to look at moving forward.
They had their bright spots, right? The Toronto Defiant, you're right. 3-0 over the Vegas Eternal. Obviously, a lot of teams 3-0ing them so far in the season. They've looked, you know, previously better earlier on in the season. Then coming towards the latter half, we have Hydron just absolutely going insane. Obviously on the Symmetra, and is going to be your player of the match. When on the Sojourn as well, just kind of diffing Dove in a lot of these team fights. Truly looked like the better player today.
Yeah, again, when they're knowing what they're going to be coming up against, they have a game plan. The fact that they field that Symmetra and stick with it, fully understanding that Kaluj is going to be pushing onto that Reinhardt and that Vulcan is going to want to try and match it as well. Just being able to put that little bit of extra pressure with that being fully charged up, as well as use the turrets to be able to control the point entry, allowed Defiant to walk with control and really bite into Eternal's mental as the entire series progressed.
Yeah, that mental aspect is a big deal, like you mentioned. Let's take a look at the Hydran stats. Obviously, this is a good sign. As a Toronto Defiant fan, 11k damage per 10, with only 5 deaths as well. And every time he popped the overclock, you could tell this guy was going to go insane. Really just half of his final blows through those overclocks as well. Truly is a standout player. There's a reason when we talk about Hydran being a star player for the Toronto Defiant. And there's a couple of things that obviously you'd want out of the Toronto Defiant Moxie. Really, they've shown signs of having good discipline, but at times they did falter, right? You'd want this team to maybe really rally around Hydran a bit more, maybe focus up, not throw fights as much as possible. Really want more of those regroups like they did earlier on. A lot of these things, a lot of signs point to them potentially finding something later on in the last chance qualifiers. I'm tripping on my words. To make sure I don't do that anymore, we'll have Rich and Kenobi back for you on the desk after a short break.
Welcome back to all of you lovely individuals at home. That was a game of Overwatch, wasn't it, Kenobi?
Sure was.
That was a good
That
one.
was definitely a way to describe that game.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, again, with the results from this 3-0, it does solidify the final, like, the standings, everything. We know. We know it all. So at this point, unfortunately, as hard as London was able to root for this to go in their favor, it unfortunately did not. As before we dive a little bit further into that, there was, you know, some exciting Overwatch, but there was some exciting dancing, and apparently there was a poll conclusion.
I wonder who won this. Wow.
I won. You know, I won.
Just show it. Where is it? I'm waiting for it.
Yep, we're gonna have it. Where is it? Do we have it? Do we actually have it? It's gonna be the tweet. No, we got a tweet.
Oh,
Let's see the tweet. Here we go. That's gonna be a good one.
Oh, we have a tweet instead.
What is this? Oh, it's from Zoe. Oh, I hope I'm doing okay. Kenobi and I are working our best.
I mean, listen, nothing's broken yet. Personally,
nothing's on fire.
On the desk.
It's still intact. Everything is well structured from the ground up.
Yes.
For now. I don't know about that.
Disregard the patches running everywhere that when you come back and like all the wood.
Like the shoe scuffing that's over there
there's
for
gonna
me
be
and
like
my body.
Wood planks in front of this. Like it's gonna not be a great time, unfortunately.
You know, I mean, it's gonna be a good time though for this next game because I think this is gonna be a good one. But you know, before we really dive into that, we'll recap and specifically talk a little bit about this match that we just had. So we know that Toronto had, you know, a lot of troubles. Same thing when it came to Vegas. There's a lot of things that you and I have highlighted, and you and I have seen these players for an extensive period of time through collegiate, through contenders, and now coming into this kind of stage. And, you know, they did claim this win, but there's still a lot of points to work on.
Yeah, I mean, this was a 3-0, but it wasn't really like the cleanest of 3-0s, which is kind of what I would be worried about with this Toronto Defiant team, because this should have been one against the Vegas Eternal where they, you know, come out, get some momentum going into last chance qualifiers. But I do want to give some credit to the Vegas Eternal, specifically Malthel. I think Malthel did have a pretty decent performance today on the Hanzo, and it was something that I think the Toronto Defiant weren't necessarily expecting, but there are still just some small things that if Toronto can clean up, they can look like a good team. Specifically Hydron, I think, really, really performed well, but this back half is like one of those things where I'm just like, this cannot be happening to a team like this who is like, as, you know, as typed up as they were going into this feels like it should have been just a complete wash and we were, you know, an hour in and out, but there was some, you know, time it took them to, they got full capped on Shambali. Like there was some time it took for Toronto Defiant to really close this one out. Once they did though, they did look crisp and clean, but luckily they are going to be heading into that last chance qualifier. So now they have a lot of pressure off of their shoulder. They're already in that tournament. So now for the next couple of weeks, they can just say, okay, let's really start to focus in and hone on what we can fix, because so far this has not been the qualifiers that we've wanted.
Absolutely. And again, with the way that they've been playing, losing sight of those significant things, just like that, you know, back cap, the C9 on that payload, you really have to start refining it. And we have such high hopes for them because, I mean, even looking back when we were being able to cast them and talk about them, it just seems different. It's disjointed, and they have a lot of that work to do. But I'm excited to see what they can do from here to be able to continue developing into the right direction so that they're going to be able to actually have a formidable chance to compete.
And I think that's the thing about, you know, going into the last chance qualifiers is that, like, again, having that time is going to be so good for this team because there was a lot of pressure, right? Talked about how many times that, like, this American Tornado Corps, all that they did in contenders, all of the victories that they had, and just unfortunately, it's not really translated over into the Overwatch League yet, which is, I think, is something that we were really expecting this team to do more so than anything else, and it just hasn't been there. So hopefully, given now that that pressure is off and they've kind of just like now they have a set path to be like, hey, we just know we have to go into the last chance qualifiers now. If we can, you know, start to ramp up in a bracket type of situation, maybe there's a chance for us still to get to the midseason mayhem.
Absolutely, and we have a chance to actually speak to one of the players, Kaluj specifically. It's been some time since I've had a chance to chit-chat with them. So, Kaluj, how are you doing, my friend? It's been a while since I've had a few words with you. Don't want to knock that over as it's getting a little closer
I don't know what's
to you.
Going on here. All right.
Just hold
you have someone stabilizing behind you, but I mean,
Oh, you know, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just have you just flexing one arm
Hold the door,
whole
hold the door,
time.
hold the door.
We'll just have that the whole time.
There we go.
So I do want to ask, you know, going into this, what is your, you know, looking to now the last chance qualifier, the way that you've been playing, what is it that you're looking forward to specifically and to develop to actually compete in that last chance qualifier?
I'll just clean up our team play in matches. I feel like in matches we don't really play like we do in scrims. A lot of people would be surprised how well we do in scrims and then show up to these matches and just play completely different than how we usually do. So probably just like transferring the results in scrims to matches a lot better.
So kind of talk to me a little bit about you specifically, because I think that's something we've seen from you, Kaluj, is a lot of like tanks. I think you've played 6 different tanks throughout the entirety of the qualifiers so far. What has that been like for you? Because I know that you're very gifted on a lot of these tank plays, but do you kind of like this idea where like you can play and think that you can, you know, pilot every single tank at a high level? Is it like a lot of mental RAM that you have to use, or it's something you're just like used to?
Last year it was something I had to get used to, but I feel like this year it's coming to be a lot easier. It's kind of more like, I don't know, figuring out how to play with these guys better. I feel like a lot of times I do struggle on like some of the main tanks, so you know it's stressful, but I got a lot of people trying to help me out and you know become better on these tanks.
You got your boys with you. You got your boys with
Yeah.
you.
Got all your pals. Got all your pals. Well, we really appreciate the time to chat with us and, you know, give us that insight. Looking forward to what is ahead of you. Sending nothing but positive energy to you. We've been, you know, along the adventure for a lot of you on your squad. So looking forward to seeing how it continues to develop. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
He held up the background really well.
Yeah. No, the whole time.
Didn't go
Just
anywhere.
gotta do
Good
what
job.
you gotta do for this. I mean, that was like me dancing over there. You just have to do what you have to do. So. But, you know, talking specifically about like their history and how they've gotten here, we cannot go without also speaking about the Contenders Spring Series as well. And we've got that on Monday and Tuesday, specifically watching to make sure that you guarantee those drops and gaining that Reaper and Lucio Contender skin. So make sure that you check out overwatchleague.com/path to pro for more information. And we're going to be there on one of those days.
Tier 2.
We'll be back there.
We are going to be back there. That is that's our old stomping ground right there, Overwatch Contenders.
Right.
So make sure that you know follow everywhere where you can. Support Tier 2. I mean, no bias here, obviously.
No.
Between us talking
Not at
about
all.
that, but I think that it's going to be interesting, you know, how Contenders shapes up going into, you know, something like a new meta potentially, or like how we're going to be seeing these teams, especially when we see like the East
Live
competing
patch.
with like Overwatch League. Like it's going to be. I think Contenders is in a really cool spot right now.
Yeah. As now we're going to hop into our next game specifically, which is going to be Washington versus Gladiators. And again, we've got a lot to really discuss on this. As you can take a look at the schedule, that is our second game for the day. And we know from what we talked about at the top of the broadcast, the amount of weight that has been put on the shoulders of Washington Justice with what their match was just earlier this weekend. And they are truly looking for an opportunity to redeem themselves. And we do get to take a look at the roster for today.
Yeah, and I mean, really the roster comes down to a lot of Alpha E, I think, in particular, because I think Alpha E has been kind of the shining star for this team, the DPS lineup. I mean, going into this week, they were the first in teamfight total wins, as also we can take a look at the Gladiators roster. Not really needing any introduction, right? I think when you look at every single one of these players, very well known. Kevster, one of the best DPS we have in the league. Kai, I think recently has really shown up, and also the integration of Funny Astro back into this roster a little bit more so now that like Brig and Lucio are coming back in, I think has really helped the Gladiators out. But for Washington in particular, it's so interesting because we've seen like 2 versions of this team. We've seen a team that's like really, really on point, crisp and clean, going in, and then there's the other side where they just like shells of themselves and they're 0-3. Going into this week, they were the first team in all of Overwatch League in terms of first pick rate, where they're getting those first picks, and that's because they have talented DPS like Alpha E and like Flora. Unfortunately, though, when you look at their team fight win percentage after those first picks, it drops down to rank 11. They are only 45% in terms of winning those team fights after those first picks. So yes, Alpha E and Flora are doing a great job of getting them, but the team sometimes just does not have that ability to clean up a fight. And in a mid fight, you cannot come incorrect against the Glads.
No.
They thrive in that mid fight. They are going to really, if it's ever in a chaotic situation like that, I'd take Gladiators 10 times out of 10 in those mid-fight situations because of who they have on their roster.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're going to be able to get our predictions here so that we can give you insight in what our thoughts were specifically. And as you can see, I think we both agreed to the right direction. You know, 3-2 in favor of Gladiators, but this is still going to be competitive. I think that it's going to be
I really hope so.
Absolutely necessary for them, especially with what we saw earlier from that tweet. It is something that they really took to heart, and they want to guarantee that this can be a win for sure, but if not a win, then a very, very
you have to look competitive here, because they kind of would take them out of this like area where there's like these top teams, right? And like they've been like Washington's been 3-0'd by Boston. They've been 3-0'd, I believe, by another team, Atlanta or something like that. But one of those other top teams And here, just putting up a good performance from Gladiators, I think would be great for them. And this is a very hefty Gladiator side, which obviously makes sense, especially after especially after what we saw like on Friday with New York. I think Gladiators right now, there's reason for them to be confident from the chat in giving them that 80%. Yeah.
Definitely shaky for sure. And now we also, take a look at in comparison. You had mentioned a lot of the DPS dynamics. What we've already seen previously. But we also have to discuss a little bit about the tank lineup and that matchup, Dante going against, these other two from Washington and what that's going to look like for them, because Dante is more so from what we would look like a favorable matchup for them.
Yeah, I think Dante has had some, the Winston is something that gets talked about a lot with Dante, but I think the biggest thing about Dante in terms of whenever Dante's playing tank is his smarts, right? I think he's one of the smartest, really good understanding of a lot of things with Ramatra, with Junker Queen. Yes, the Winston sometimes not looking as phenomenal as the best Winstons that we have in the league, but still I think that Dante is kind of this stalwart presence that really helps out the Gladiators, and it'll be interesting to see how Washington are going to go up against it. Are we going to see a lot of mirror Winston? When are we going to see Ben Best? Are we going to see Ben Best? Those are questions that are going to have to be answered by the Washington Justice.
And those questions are going to be answered as we're going to toss it over to the casters so they can give us the answers. We're going to be heading on back over again. Hello, you lovely individuals. Gonna bring us a second game. Excited to have you again.
Yep. We're back for that second game. Thank God that we're not seeing the Justice versus the Vegas Eternal. Otherwise, we might spicy Ben Best tweets. You know what I'm saying? But okay, in this matchup here, Moxie, obviously, that's broke it down perfectly. Thank you, Rich and Kenobi. For the upcoming matchup between these two teams, should be competitive. I think between the Washington Justice and the Los Angeles Gladiators, I think everybody's expecting this matchup to be hyper competitive.
I mean, I'm just looking forward to getting to see this Tracer first off, because I'm honestly surprised that Kenobi didn't touch on this. He, like me, really has a soft spot for Alpha E because of all of our backgrounds on Chinese contenders. Getting to see him just pop off the Billy Gaming and then picked up for the Spark, and then now getting to move over to Washington Justice. This is a Tracer player that you have to watch out for, because he doesn't just play the Tracer. He's so flexible with things like the Genji and the Echo in his back pocket, but he's going up against Kevster, who is currently one of the leading Tracers in the entire league, who also can play more than anything that isn't just the Tracer. So I think it's going to be a lot of versatility, a lot of flexibility coming through from these compositions.
Well, and that's why this weekend has been so amazing to watch. A lot of these teams that are really even close match-wise, or close team-wise, have been not playing against each other the entire stage, but now towards the very last bit, when all is on the line, all the seeding's on the line, we finally get that matchup, like you said, between Alpha E and Kevster.
Well, starting off on Antarctic, we're not going to see the Reinhardt. Bemba's not in the mix at the moment for the Justice. Instead, it's going to be the Ram coming through. Mirrors across the entire board. So again, it really is going to come down to the better positioning and the better Hanzo as a result.
Yeah, both Hanzos kind of posturing up. You see Flora towards that coastal side, looking for the other Hanzo, which is Kai, back of the map towards the more inside angle. Uses storm arrows to check that spot. Either no kills yet for either Hanzo. In fact, it's Mir with the pressure from that front line, able to find Dante. He's already gone down. Also, ice block used from Kevster, forcing him to fall. And it's interesting that we mentioned, the Tracer v Tracer matchup, but in the Mei versus Mei, it really is more utility and less star-based.
Yeah, it really is about whether or not you can counteract that Mei wall, as well as using things like the block to be able to soak in damage and also stall out that point. And that's going to be something that's available for Justice right now that they've been able to win that first fight. Alpha E, if things go south for Justice in this next engagement, will be able to stall for a good percentage of the point that Gladiators are just not going to be able to act him from. But Lastro, because so much poke came through from Gladiators, has been able to keep pace with Terror reasonably well for the AMP.
Los Angeles Gladiators coming through from the front of the ship will move on into the middle, drop that barrier to maybe zone off the backline. Alpha E playing around Mir where it seems like Dante's Mei, Kevster playing on a different angle. Amplification Matrix used from the Justice in a defensive angle. Gladiators disengage it, now drop onto the side with their own Amplification Matrix, but Flora through the Amp Matrix connects onto Kai. Dante, though, did trade it back. Mir falls, so you don't have that point presence either once he's gone. Making sure that flip comes through for the Gladiators now is just Dante, now able to pummel onto that backline to get up to that 5-kill streak and take that point back.
Yeah, getting to play with Funny Astro's Lucio as well. The speed in full swing so that Dante is able to use those pummels, catching onto all of those members of Justice stuffed up in that such small space as they try and disengage as cleanly as possible. Kevs are going to have that Blizzard as well for Gladiators to be able to use. It's going to significantly alter how Justice are able to approach this next point, as Flora doesn't really want to go for that full steal off the ground. He's going to be such an easy target for Kai if he does.
Kevster waiting with that Blizzard towards the point, trying not to get poked down from those outside angles that the Washington Justice are utilizing. Teru jumps on top of the wall. Kevster now commits the Blizzard into that back line as Mir tried to go aggressive with the Annihilation, able to get the beat drop as well. Outside of the Blizzard, Alpha Yi, nice kill onto Kevster before he can get the beat drop. Kai, though, does trade it back. Mir falls yet again. Dante goes incredibly low, and eventually Alpha Yi takes him out of the fight. So now both of the tank players are removed. No Ramatras here. Los Angeles Gladiators trying to find some value, but Flora on the Hanzo is able to find Lastro and Kai, while Alpha Yi cleans up onto Funny Astro.
Yeah, really good beat coming through from FD God to allow Mirror to hold on to that Annihilation for as long as possible. And then when both of those tanks are removed, it's Flora who finds that headshot to be able to uneven the numbers between themselves and Gladiators. This point has been on an absolute pendulum swing between these two teams, something that we don't typically tend to see, because if you're in control of the point, you're in control of those choke engagements. You can allow that Hanzo to lengthen the distance and hit those headshots before the fight begins. But both of these teams doing such a good job of clean rotations, not losing a player too early.
Exactly. Those clean rotations now forward. Gladiators rotate towards the point and another Ant Matrix, and pretty much the same angle used before, but a counter one came through, and Mir trades Kai out, but FD God goes down. So now it's Ramatra on Ramatra, and Mir unfortunately didn't have peel from anybody. Astro came back for that Ramatra player, and now the Justice stuck without a tank player, trying to stagger the point up to 99, in which they do so, which is a benefit for them long term. But the Gladiators know flip it after the overtime takedown.
The pendulum swing once again in motion, swings towards the east, and Gladiators will be in control of this point. Kai approaching that Dragon Strike as well. Flora sitting on his. The problem for Justice is that they're going to have to use it to potentially try and split Gladiators, so they're not able to find value off of Kai being able to do the exact same to Justice as they make this next approach onto the point.
They're just sitting back at the current moment. Justice playing, or deciding where to go, rather, maybe trying to confuse Gladiators, but they still enter that front of the ship again. Flora still sitting with that Dragon Strike as well. Immortality was used early from the Justice. We have to pay attention to that cooldown because Kai has his own Dragon Strike. Flora sneaking around the back, drops the Dragon Strike as he knows that Glad's go aggressive and picks off Funny Astro. What a Dragon Strike from him. Teru also connects onto Dante as the Los Angeles Gladiators are in full dismay. The rest of the Justice now regroup around the point and will capture it off of a phenomenal Dragon Strike from Flora.
Oh my goodness, that's why you have to mark the Hanzo if you know that Dragon Strike is available. Justice literally reveal everyone but the Hanzo in that engagement, baiting Gladiators into thinking that they have the upper hand. Justice are coming around the coastal side of the boat, so Gladiators for Kevster and Kai are just free to be able to primary spam down that distance. As we can get a look at the replay, he's got the Sonic out already. He knows exactly where Gladiators are going to be playing from. Funny Astro is the one that gets hit by it first, and the lamp just isn't in position. Lastro's so far away from his Lucio that he's just not able to throw it down in time to be able to save him before Funny Astro is already taken out, and he just has to go for the 1v1 duel.
Nice job from Flora so far. Very impressed with this Hanzo play. Different compositions though, Moxie. Look at this already coming out of spawn.
Well, there's the Winston dive that we were expecting to get to see. Mirror onto that, Teru onto the Ana to be able to build that Nano boost as quickly as possible. But the big difference is actually going to be DPS. Flora and Alfie going for full commit to the dive. Kai playing displacement, trying to keep Lastro alive.
The hack came through with Dante, but is able to jump back. Mir also trying to get some peel from his team. Does have Teru off on that off angle. On top of the wall, just getting those heals onto Mir. You know, able to jump there from the box, just gives his team a lot of that backline presence and gives him some good angles. FD God goes incredibly low, but he's got the support of the backline. Nade still available to Astro, and the rest of the Glads now drop towards the point, while the rest of Justice kind of play around it, waiting. Are they going to give the point? Nope. Looks like Alpha E's touching last second, but they're taking some damage every time they do so. Nice nade connects onto Dante. Shirley is going to force him back. No! He just full dies. I don't know if he had jump cooldown or what. Alpha E connects onto Dante with the rest of the Justice, and Shirley with that pick onto Dante. The Glads will not find any more value and have to back up.
Yeah, Kai's hacked as well, taking even more pressure from the follow-through from Justice, who are going to be able to claim that first point and really make it hard for Kai to be able to infiltrate back into these angles on that Ashe to pressure Teru down, because look at where this Ana is playing from. He's super aggressive at the moment, playing off on those high ground angles, but if he does take pressure from the Ashe, he's going to actually be able to just move ever so slightly to his left, breaking out of line of sight and cycling back into that Ana heal.
Oh my god, a sleep dart came through onto that dive with a nano boost, and Alfie finds Dante again, who came through and touched the point. Dante, unfortunately, not having a great time on the Winston so far. Justice, only one ultimate user and a pulse bomb in that fight. Now have a pretty solid advantage.
Flora's going to have the EMP, is already in the backline too. He's passed the spy check. He is detected for a moment and has to actually translocate out as a result. But he's still just going to be there ready and waiting for Lasher to make the move and initiate into this next fight with Nano.
EMP, anti-grenade. Dante doesn't get the heals from the nano boost and falls immediately again. But nice sleep dart. Eventually is going to run out onto Mir. It was a good connection from Lastro, but now it's just Mir running freely on this point. No Dante in sight. Bob, though, does come through, kind of a bit of a tank in replacement for Dante. Gives Glads a good opportunity in this fight, and they do have the rally, so a lot of ultimates committed. FD God used his own rally, but now in a retake position, they have to deal with these aggressive nades from Lastro, who can just use these defensive nades to keep his team in it. Dante also commits the Primal Rage to connect onto FD God, who had to back up. Kai finds Mir as well in that same fight, giving him that flip. Nice bob from Kai to open things for them.
But this could be a very fast flip in the next fight. Justice still equipped with a nano boost to be able to push Mira aggressively onto Gladiator's backline, and Lastro a little bit further away from the nano is not going to actually be able to put it onto Dante to be able to peel for the Ana. Instead, it's going to come down to Kevster to try and find this pulse bomb attachment.
Flora gets poked, but does get healed up immediately. Backs out of there with his own translocator. Mir now walks towards the point, get the nano boost, jump for the high ground of Kai, who went aggressive to find Teru. So that's a nice pick for Glads, but is it worth it to lose Kai? We'll have to see. Eventually, Mir has to jump out after his bubble cooldown is utilized. Glads regrouped on the outside. No point flip either. They just want to wait for Teru to come back.
Yeah, 100% worth it. You trade that every single day of the week. Teru had used the nano, but without that Ana, Mira just doesn't have the confidence or heals to be able to push onto Gladiators, and as a result, they're ahead in terms of ultimate charge. The problem is that Flora has the ultimate to take all of those options away from Gladiators. EMP is in play.
Yeah, but Flora was scouted out by the side of Kevster, who did a great job walking on that left flank. Pokes him out early. Flora now looking to potentially EMP Dante. Doesn't really want to go for it just yet because his Translocator almost got found out. Oh my god, Translocates to avoid the damage of Kevster. And now Kevster backs out of there knowing that Sombra is in that angle, used the pulse bomb, but doesn't want to give up the position. He still wants the opportunity to take that left flank, so he jumps on top of the wall to now come all the way back through. Lastro still sitting with Ana, who's now 80% on the board. Entering nearly classified territory, and EMP connects with Teru's Ancient Grenade and Alpha Yi onto Funny Astro, the back line. Lastro trying to escape with his life, potentially. Might get staggered here from Alpha Yi. Looks like he is. And 85%, this is going to be a rough recontest now for Glads.
Yeah, Gladiators were able to steal a lot of percentage though, because Flora was found out so many times in trying to set that EMP up. Gladiators have been able to cycle towards 84%. The problem is, are Justice going to allow them to come back into this engagement, because Alfie is just guarding every single possible entrance to this point.
They did touch. Eventually, Kevster does recall, though, and he's going to fall. He got hacked. So eventually, Dante comes back, but they're down a member. Has that Primal Rage ready to go, but Mir's still using his. So with the ultimate advantage, you would think the Justice are in a pretty favorable position. The rally on the point, though, from Funny Astro. No support ultimate committed yet for the Justice either until now. The Nano comes through on to Kai. Kai tries to equalize it, build up that Bob. Nice pocket from Astro, but Dante is removed. Bob is not being built. 94, 95%, but Astro is removed. Everybody else is gone, and the Justice will win on map number 1.
Justice as well, getting that hack to connect onto Kai, who was so close to that Bob ultimate to be able to throw onto the point and keep it contested for Gladiators to maybe be able to turn it around. Justice just looking incredibly comfortable on this dive composition that they are so renowned for. We said to ourselves, are we going to see the same Justice at the start of the season, or is it going to be the Justice that really struggled against New York Excelsior in the last week? This is the Justice we're used to. This is the Justice we love.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they look amazing so far. Good for them to take that map number 1. Obviously, I think standout, Moxie, was Flora, round number 1, onto that Hanzo, really able to find a lot of that value, and then also, you know, Teru and Mir combining on previous maps. I think they're looking a lot more cohesive than they have in previous weeks. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's not just the fact that he's playing that Hanzo really well on